So welcome, Greg, to our VA rating program. It's a true pleasure to be doing this with you in partnership with the Veterans Chamber. I think the information that you have to share, and I mean, I was totally impressed when you and I talked about so many different benefits that that could be added to the value of the veteran, and bringing the professionals alongside with it. I think that's the winning ticket for a lot of our veterans. Having the attorneys, having the doctors, having that support that justifies the benefits when the veterans are looking to request the rating. As veterans, we know that as veterans, we are clueless how this works. So we really rely on people like you to kind of simplify it and clarify it in a way that makes sense to us. So I would like to kind of give an opportunity for you to introduce yourself, tell us who you are, how you work, how you do it, and what are the benefits that you bring to the table so veterans in the audience can understand how this works.
There's a collection account.
So, Greg?
Absolutely. So it's a pleasure doing it with you, Joe. We both see the value in helping our brother and sister veterans. No question about that. My name is Greg Colton. I'm with Marsh Solutions. We are a wholesale legal services firm that works for accredited attorneys in helping veterans out with their benefits. With us today, we have Adam Williams and Jay Blott. And we really look forward to getting good information out for you and to explaining better the process, the roles of the VSO versus the attorney, and then taking your questions and seeing if we can't answer some of those questions for you. If you do have questions before I introduce them, please give us a call. Get your questions answered. The phone number is 1-888-671-6160. Adam, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Greg. My name is Adam Williams. I'm an accredited county veteran service officer. I'm a director for one of the counties in Oregon, and I'm also the president for the Oregon County Veteran Service Officers Association. I've been doing service officer work since 2013. I'm an Army veteran. I'm just happy to be here and happy to help get some info out.
And Adam, will you explain to our audience what does that mean as a veteran service officer? What are your main roles?
Absolutely. So a veteran service officer, you'll have service officers that work for counties. You also have them work for, some of the places that we're familiar with, like the American Legion, the VFW, DAV, and a host of other places that I didn't even know, which includes even the Red Cross. What we do, what our forte is, we tend to take on, the initial parts with a veteran or surviving spouse when they need help for a disability claim, claims for survivor benefits and death benefits. Some of the smaller offices that have a little more time to work with, we also can help with Veterans Health Administration issues, dealing with Tri-West or Optum, depending on community care networking, helping folks get set up with that. As a veteran service officer, one of the biggest things that's important when a veteran or a surviving spouse goes out to find one is to find one that is accredited. That is probably one of the biggest pieces that people don't fully understand. Accreditation requires, if I remember correct, it's 40 hours of training, initial training. And then you have CEUs, additional training through subsequent years after that. You also have to take a test to get accredited. It's not just take a bunch of classes and it's over and done and you're good. You actually got to pass a test. So it's very intensive, and that's just to get things started. That doesn't even get you access into the VA system yet and get VBMS, which is the Veteran Benefit Management System, which is where everything opens up. A lot of times what we will see with some of the local posts for Legion, VFW and such is you have a chapter service officer there. Now they'll call themselves a VSO, but they're not accredited typically. And sometimes they won't have the most up-to-date information. So that's why the accreditation is super important. Moving on.
I like how politically correct you were there,
Hey,
Adam. That you walked a very, very fine line. I think that's very true of everything. You know, as we're in the forums and the posts, you know, really talking to the veterans and explaining to them the importance of listening to somebody who's accredited, because we didn't just fall off a turnip truck. We've been around and we are there to help them. Jay, can you give them a little bit of background on yourself and what it's like to be an accredited attorney versus being an accredited VSO?
Well, this has been a long journey to this process for me, as Greg is aware. I practice law in Texas. That's where my state license is. I have practiced throughout the United States, though, in complicated litigation, civil litigation that's not important for why we're here today. But more importantly, the reason that I got into this is because my son served 12 years in the Marines and was medically retired. My nephew served 8 years. My father served 3 years, all in the Marine Corps. I will confess, I am that mom that you dread having when you're serving active duty. I've dressed down quite a few officers in my time. And I have a lot of sons, if you will, and daughters that are veterans that aren't related to me, but always reach out to me for help and things of that nature. So about 3 or 4 years ago, I became certified as an attorney, accredited with the Veterans Administration. And yes, I'm that lawyer that turns in the attorneys that I find are representing veterans, charging them a fee on an initial claim and are not accredited. I am very passionate about my veterans. I'm very passionate about getting them the benefits that they've earned. I do not like the word entitlement. I'm always correcting people when they say entitled, because my veterans, as all veterans, are not entitled. They earned it when they signed on the dotted line. I also represent veterans in civil matters, especially custody cases, and primarily those veterans who suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, because unfortunately the judicial system believes that if you have PTSD, then you're violent and you need to have supervised visitation of your children. So I'm not your traditional attorney. I'm very laid back. I talk Marine speak. I know all the language. And I just have a huge heart for helping our veterans. So in the last, I guess, year or 6 months, I am transitioning my docket so that I only represent veterans before the Veterans Administration or in civil litigation. And when I represent the veterans in civil litigation, I do not charge them for my services.
That's fantastic. Adam, can you try and explain the role in your mind of a VSO? There's lots of different things that are out there, but can you give I guess groups or genres that help veterans? Can you give the veterans that are listening a good idea of the role of an accredited VSO in the program, what it's supposed to mean to the veteran?
So, you know, our role, kind of what I kind of jumped into it a little earlier, we're that initial piece. in what's nice is when you get the good attorneys, we work, side by side with them, and we know where our stuff stops and where their stuff begins, because there is a line where it's going to end up happening like that. With us, we're the first ones. If you don't always know where to look, so a lot of times you'll come to us and be like, I want to file a claim, I don't know how. So just talking disability claims, you come to us, we start asking you questions. When did you serve? When was this? What happened? And get all that initial information from you. From there, start filling out the documents, maybe just looking initially at your medical paperwork that you might have. I know a lot of them get it from the military now on CD, which is amazing. The old documents aren't so great.
That's an understatement.
Hey, like you said, a little politically correct here, but as you get it in, we try to comb through it and find, okay, here's where you're being treated for this. Here was your injury, your complaints in service. Boom. Now we have that first of the 3 legs that's required for a disability claim. Because you need an injury in service or aggravation in service or something to that effect. And that's your first step. We're also going to discuss from that point, have you had like continuity of care with it? Which means, have you been complaining about it? Have you been talking to your doctor about it? Have you not talked to your doctor about it? Where are you with that? And also, do you have, and that's the second leg, that'd be your nexus. That word gets thrown out a ton. And then the third leg, do you have a current diagnosis? Because a lot of times, and I've seen this way too many, even with complicated medical issues, you'll get treated in service for something, be given medication for a thyroid condition, but never have an actual diagnosis for it. So now we're working backwards, trying to get that diagnosis and get it all set up. That's where we come into play. And we get that set up, get the initial claim going, and hopefully, if we did our part, did everything correct, we get it granted. Doesn't always happen, because the VA might miss something, or the examiner might miss something or not do it right. Now that's when it starts to kind of change a little bit, and going into the appeals process, you end up basically having a choice at that point where we might not be able to help as much depending on how complicated it is, and you might have to start looking at an attorney. Every claim is different, as we all know. And because of that, if it's an easy claim, there's a fair chance we can probably handle it. Any good attorney is going to tell you that. But any good VSO is also going to be able to say, hey, you know what? That's a little bit too much for us. It's probably about that time. And then make those suggestions to find an accredited attorney, which with a lot of us, we can't say, hey, go to this person, this is the best person, but give you some good ideas of reputable, accredited attorneys that have a good track record that can help.
I couldn't agree more. And I think it's really important for what you said, Adam, for the veterans to understand what it takes to get a disability approved, to make it compensable, meaning the VA is going to pay you for it. They'll service connect you and rate you and pay you for it. Step one, if you don't have a current diagnosis, you're going nowhere. Step two, you have to show the condition is a chronic condition, or that your symptoms have continuity, meaning that they continue since they began. So it could be something that started in service, as in I broke my leg and it caused nerve damage. The leg breaking is not the chronic condition. The leg healed. It's the nerve damage that created the chronic condition, and it continues over and over to hurt. The scar on your leg, if the bone happened to come out through the skin, you can get rated for it. It's if it hurts and it itches all the time, stuff like that. It's that chronic condition, the continuity of the symptomology. It could also be that you did something through normal circumstances of your service. You were on a ship and it bounced up and down constantly. You were in the Army and you were constantly packing stuff along. And while it may have hurt in service, you may not have gotten it into your service records. You may never have gone to see doc over that. But the circumstances of your service, you can document that. And 5 years, 10 years down the road, now you've got this massive degeneration in your spine because of the degeneration that started in service. And when you then have those MRIs, those x-rays, whatever, and the current diagnosis, it says you have herniated discs or degeneration or stenosis or whatever it is, you can then take that to Adam and say, hey, Adam, I've got this condition. And Adam turns around and says, well, great, we have a current diagnosis now. We have the impression from the MRI. Tell me about your circumstances in service that could have caused this. And by having those circumstances in service documented, I was in the Army, I marched, I carried this, I had to, lift generators by the tongue and push them around, whatever it is that are your circumstances in service, you bring those to Adam and he can document those. And through the use of a personal statement, he can tell your story and get that current diagnosis with the continuity of it hurt, now it hurts a lot, and give you the third step, that nexus that then gives you that service connection. So I think it's really important to understand that everyone's circumstances are different. And that, in the online forums, you're constantly hearing about, one veteran telling another, well, this is what happened in my case. Well, that's great that's how you got service connected. But Joe is not Frank, and his circumstances are different. He served in a different place. He did different things. And it's important to document what he did that caused that and to bring that to Adam, and Adam can tie that together. Would you agree, Adam?
Absolutely. Yeah. And, even something as simple as tinnitus. I actually went through this with my own personal claim. I was infantry for 6 years. Did I complain about it? No. It was just something that happened, shooting guns, stuff blowing up, whatever. It was just there. Fast forward, after I get out of the service, about 9-10 years later, I'm getting interviewed for, my VSO position, and the director's like, well, did you know you could claim that? And I'm like, you can? So it's like, yeah, let's do this. And so going into it, never complained about it in service, but I had the exposure. There's that great, MOS list showing, noise exposure. So then it, right there it was right off the top, like, yeah, it happened. They know it happened. The VA knows it happened. It was their letter. There's your in service.
Absolutely. And, in my case as a corpsman, you mentioned the MOS list, and there's a list that says this person has a low risk, a moderate risk, or a high risk for noise injury to their ears. I was a corpsman. You look at that list, it says low risk. Okay. But I was a corpsman that served on a ship. I had to go in every single space. And I then transitioned and was an EMT and a paramedic at a hospital and was exposed to sirens every single day. That's not low risk, but that's not the same risk another corpsman had that was in. There could be a corpsman that was serving with the Marines that was constantly around gunfire. There could be a corpsman who was a lab tech who sat in a lab and heard noisy machines all day long. Or there could be a corpsman who was in an internal medicine clinic and they never heard a single loud sound at all. So it's your circumstances of service are really important to that claim, even when it's simple like tinnitus. But even when we do it right, Adam, when you file the claim right and you put all of it together, sometimes things go wrong.
Yep, and mine sure did. I actually had to take it to BVA and talk to the judge. Yep.
You did.
I filed multiple.
The attorney role comes in.
Yeah. Yep. And, you know, for mine particularly, I even tried multiple reconsiderations back when they were allowed, and they still said no.
Isn't that amazing that you can take such a simple claim and it becomes such a major issue that you have to appeal over and over and ask for reconsideration over and over?
Yeah.
And that's where, in my experience, and I'll let you speak from the VSO's experience, but in my experience, that the VSOs are less qualified. Once they've submitted it to the best of their ability, that's where it starts to get out on the edge of their knowledge base and capabilities. Absolutely.
You know, for something as simple as mine, it was easy to handle on our side. You know, I definitely subscribe to the idea that, you know, only a fool represents themselves. And I had, you know, one of our state VSOs represent me, and it was easy, open and shut. The judge was also a, you know, former military member, so they understood. But that doesn't always happen, you know. So like you said, it does carry over, and that's where you got to know your limitations and start talking to an attorney who can look at the law and utilize the law, whether it's Korea or one of the other pieces of, well, I can't think of all the other ones. There's like 4 or 5 that are the main ones for like range of motion and such that are used very often nowadays. And attorneys will pick that up, write the legal briefs, which I know you are very you know, attuned to and looking up all that. And that's what the handoff should be then at that point.
Jay, what do you do when you get that handoff then from a VSO? You get a veteran that's coming to you that's used a VSO and they've been denied. What's the process that you use?
Well, the first thing I do is dumpster dive into their C file. The reason for that is, as you know, any veteran knows who's accessed their C file, is the pages are voluminous. And I can't see the tree for the leaves on the branches. And I read every word in the C file. And Greg does that. Greg and I coordinate together. So he's doing his dumpster diving, and I apologize, that's the word I use. I dumpster dive. So one of the things that I'm looking at is, number one, what evidence and what claims is the veteran making? But I also look to see whether or not there is any other claim that could have been brought that is significant and should have been brought on behalf of the veteran. And the reason I do that is because my experience with all the veterans I've dealt with, both personally and professionally, don't realize that something they have is a compensable claim. And so I go through and I review everything. I see from an evidentiary standpoint what was inadvertently admitted or inadvertently overlooked and not submitted with the claim. I file a supplemental claim or request for review and get that evidence before the board. But I also tie in not only the CFR, the VA regulations and the law, but I always go to the cases for legal support. For example, interpretation, if you will, between what constitutes a combination of distinct and separate disabilities for purposes of, what is it, Greg? 4.1, can't remember the name of the code. And then I develop it and submit that claim on behalf of the veteran.
Absolutely. So Joe, we have a question from the audience. Bring it on. Well, Joe has to unmute in order to do that.
That's right. We actually took questions that just came in through LinkedIn. So the first question was, of course, someone who wants to get started. So Navy vet and wants to know what's the easiest claims to apply for that they have the clearest and basically most obvious approval.
Well,
And I guess
I'm going to take a swing at this before I let Adam come in.
Okay, go ahead, Greg.
And I'm going to do that because in my view, it's integrity, it's ethical. So you apply for a benefit for which you meet the 3 criteria. You have a current diagnosis, you have chronicity or continuity of symptoms, and you have a link to service. Your circumstances are your own. Are there easier claims to prove? Sure. The easiest claim to prove is you have a chronic disease that started in service and you are still in service. That is the easiest claim, regardless of what it is. You had a stroke, you had a heart attack, you had fungus that just won't go away on your toes, whatever it is, that has got to be the easiest claim. What's the hardest claim? Well, Adam's going to, say the same thing. You get a World War II vet that's still alive and says, I have this problem and it's related to service and it's now 70, 80, 90 years later. All right, we got to figure out how to make that nexus to service. That's extremely difficult to do. So the ones that are further away from service are the hardest. The ones closest are the easiest. If you're currently in, it's obviously the easiest. As far as a range, I think there's ethical concerns there in saying, well, if you apply for tinnitus, that's the easiest claim to get approved. And I think we could all, without any ethical problems, say that is true. Are there other ones that are fairly easy? I think so. In fact, I'd go so far as saying sleep apnea and things like that are very easy. PTSD is very easy to get, but you have to have the circumstances in service to justify that. Adam, take it away.
I think, go ahead, Adam, please.
No, go ahead, please.
I was going to say that I think that's really what the Navy veteran was asking for, is that, something that is so obvious, sleep apnea, things like that, simple things that anyone who's been a vet has something. You just haven't met anybody who doesn't have anything yet. So, but thank you, Greg. That was great. So
go ahead, Adam. No, yeah, I want Adam to take this from his point of view because he sees a lot more of those initial claims.
Yeah, Greg, you kind of hit it on the head. And I know you've on the forums and stuff, you've seen me gripe about this same question. It is what you can prove. What did you actually have in service? What do you think you have? If you're under the age of 40 and trying to claim Agent Orange exposure and stuff like that, probably not going to happen. It
probably not. Yeah.
Yeah. There's that ethical and side to it. But yeah, you have to have, like you said, easiest thing, if you're still in service, start complaining now. If you're on your way out, if you're within your 180 days, start complaining. It's okay. Even if you're still 1 day out, get something in there, you're still in.
Well, and I would like to then address the second question, which was from a Vietnam vet. And he writes has that ring on my ears. It's a Vietnam vet, went through Vietnam, never reported the claim, never reported to doctors, but now the ring is consistent. It's been, of course, a long time. The question didn't say the years, but so being from Vietnam to now, can someone like that still have a chance to submit a claim and be on the winning side?
Absolutely. I totally believe it, as long as you can meet that criteria. If you were in a position, it depends on what you did. If you were in a position that you didn't have the noise exposure, your chances dwindle fast. Case in point, I had a Korean War veteran just a year and a half ago. Never filed for hearing loss. I got it for him because he was in the infantry. He had the exposure. We could prove exposure, prove where he was. And, he got it. Deaf as a fence post too. There was no question about it. And they could have, and sometimes, the VA does say, well, it's age related. Okay. You'll see that come up a lot with denials. And that's where, sometimes a VSO, depending how good they are, they can fight it. And that's sometimes where it's a good time to hand it over to, more of the medical experts, like Greg being able to look into it deeper and, looking at your attorneys and looking for them to fight it from there.
And that kind of goes into his second part of the question. If he goes alone, so a lot of services out there promote the services. So he's saying, if I go alone, or what will be the biggest advantage of going or using an attorney like Jacqueline, for example? And I guess this question will be to you, Jack. What will be the biggest advantage that you can offer to a veteran?
Well, a veteran there's really two processes. The first one is where the veteran files on his own, and the VA has a duty to assist. And, the individuals with whom I'm acquainted that work with the Veterans Administration are not cold-hearted. They're working very hard to do what they need to do in order to help that veteran get the services or the compensation rating that they need. Unfortunately, they're also overwhelmed and have time limitations. Whereas if you hire an attorney or if you retain an attorney, I don't know how to say that because I don't want to give the impression that on an initial claim, because this is my biggest beef, on an initial claim, you better not be charged by a lawyer. But because of the degree of familiarity and putting the evidence together, and even the VA recognizes that those claims that are filed by attorneys on behalf of veterans, in my experience and based what I've heard from my colleagues at the Veterans Administration, are handled quicker. Okay. Because they're more succinct.
I think that's true. And I think it's valuable to say, to go back to where Adam was, it's about the accreditation. It's not that the guys at the local VFW are bad guys or ladies. They're great folks. They're well-meaning. They want to help out. That accreditation that you go through, be it a VSO, be it a claims agent, be it an attorney, is extremely valuable to putting together well-formed claims. You don't have a well-founded claim, you're setting yourself up for failure. And a lot of those local VSOs, while they're trying to do things right, don't necessarily. Go ahead, Adam.
Well,
I saw Adam had something to say there.
And that's luckily with some of the groups that we meet up with here and we have a veterans council for Central Oregon, and we have one of those service officers there, and I can't tell you how many times we've had to make corrections on just bad information on something as simple as new legislation with the AMA, or whether it be mental health and gun laws.
Right.
Which is big for, a lot of the hunters and rural veterans and stuff.
Sure. And
just trying to fix that and change it. We don't have arguments, but it's just like, oh my God, no, don't tell your people that.
Yeah, we have educational opportunities where we go, whoa, you misunderstood something, or you're listening to internet fallacies out there through the grapevine that just aren't correct. Jay, you had something?
Yeah, I would like to go, Jake, actually I would like to ask a question before you continue.
Sure.
And that's something that I've had questions in the past from veterans. And what is, you mentioned the criteria of not charging the veteran on the claim as an attorney. Can you expand on that so our audience can understand, please?
Yes. And it's very confusing.
Thank you.
But if you go in and see an attorney and say, I've got this, wart on my nose, for example, just because I don't like dealing with the really bad stuff. And, I think it might be service connected, but I don't know. What do you think? Blah, 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 blah. The attorney can charge that veteran because he has not made the decision to file an initial claim, what we call a consultation fee. And I do that because it costs me to go out and get the information to make the determination as to whether or not that veteran does in fact have a claim. However, if Joe Veteran walks in my office and says, I want to file an initial claim with the Veterans Administration for tinnitus, I cannot charge that veteran a claim. Well, I'm going to say an attorney cannot charge that veteran for a claim because I have sucker tattooed on my forehead. However, when you get to the process where the veteran receives a notice of decision denying his claims, he can hire an attorney, and that attorney can charge a fee. However, that fee is dependent on a percentage. The highest percentage allowed by the Veterans Administration is 20%, which is still less than a personal injury attorney in Texas. But that fee is paid out of back pay.
Okay.
So the fee is truly driven, the size of the fee, if you will, is driven by the amount of back pay that the veteran gets. However, it doesn't end there. And I got to tell you, I'm not your usual attorney. So I keep my time. I'm never going to send my veteran a bill, but I keep my time. So, for example, once I am successful in getting a claim with the veteran on behalf of the veteran, I still have to submit my fee application to the Veterans Administration. And they look at it and decide whether or not I did, in fact, earn 20% of the back pay. And they can deny it. You can appeal it and do all that other stuff. But as an attorney, I can also look at the hours I spent in order to get that veteran his claim and ask myself, do I really feel like the fee that I can be awarded has been earned by me? And I'm always shooting myself in the foot, but that's okay. And that's very important to know. But one of the things that I wanted to address, and so it's very important, and I encourage everybody. I mean, I, have the stink eye in Texas because I have in fact reported attorneys. Attorneys know I'm certified. They call me. They want my opinion or on a claim that they're filing. And I always ask them, oh, well, have you signed the veteran up already? Oh, yeah. Oh, well, what are you charging him? Oh, well, I got a retainer for $25,000.
Wow.
And I'm billing them X number of dollars an hour. I said, oh, okay, well, good luck with that. Hang up, call the office of the general counsel and report the attorney with their bar number. That's the helicopter Marine mom in me. But one of the things.
Thank you for that.
So, well, I was voluntold for the Marine Corps for over 12 years. Anyway. But one of the things that I really want to impress on our veterans is whether you choose a VSO or an accredited attorney, interview the attorney and the VSO. Just because an attorney is accredited does not mean that they have the experience necessary to handle your claim. There are VSOs, and I'm sure Adam is one of them, that probably has more experience and better at doing the claims than I am. So just because an attorney has is a licensed attorney does not mean that they are the best representative for you. And another thing to remember, and I really feel that this is important, you have to have a relationship with that attorney or that VSO. You need to be comfortable to go to your representative and say, hey, I'm having this issue, or hey, I think you missed this, or something of that nature. There has to be.
You have to advocate for yourself, and Adam will tell you the same thing. You are your best advocate.
Well, sometimes. My experience with a lot of the veterans who I'm currently representing, or that I'm a member of several veteran organizations because of my son, is a lot of the veterans, and so this is an admonishment to the veterans, don't apologize for your claims with the Veterans Administration. You made sacrifices to your country that no one else has. You are not entitled to those benefits. You have earned those benefits. And if you're not willing, then you let somebody else fight for those benefits on your behalf. I cannot tell you how many veterans I have encountered that says, oh, well, I don't want to be on the government dole. You are not on the government dole. Those are benefits you have earned, and by God, you need to go get those benefits.
Absolutely.
So that's my Marine mom. Don't mess with my veteran speech.
Oh, you got some more questions for us?
Yes, we actually we're going into the 3:15 time, and we're opening the for questions from our attendees. And so I have one question that was posted by direct from Destiny, and she's asking that she went and had a surgery done, and now she's getting headaches. I don't want to go into detail, just and if she wants to pose the question herself, she can come online and ask it. But I want to ask a little bit about what she's asking. And if someone receives medical attention, and then as a result of that, then it starts having results, whether it's headaches or something else, can that be something that it can be submitted as a claim? And Destiny, if you're listening, please expand on the question. If I just want to provide very little information for privacy. If you want to expand, feel free to do so. But
the answer is yes. Adam, you want to take this? It sounded to me like it wasn't necessarily a disability that started in service,
Right.
or of a treatment maybe at the VA afterward.
Can you guys hear me?
yes, Destiny, we can hear you. Go ahead, explain, please.
Okay, so I noticed while I was in probably around a year ago, I was diagnosed with a disease called keratoconus in both of my eyes. So I went to a doctor. Well, I went to my ophthalmologist, and he referred to me off post to get a second opinion. And it was definitely, they wrote a letter saying it was definitely keratoconus. So he denied my submission to get eye surgery. It was one of the eye surgeries that he denied that a lot of service members get. So
Okay.
get ICL, which I was able to qualify for. And I went and got my ICL surgery, and now it's a month after my surgery, and I went back to my monthly, what is it, pre-op, I guess, or whatever,
Post-op.
Post-op. So he diagnosed me with having high eye pressure because of him putting in a lens that was too big. So now he's saying that he doesn't know if he wants to redo the surgery, because that's going to be something in my future that I'm gonna have to like deal with all the time, because he put a lens that was too big. So now I'm having constant headaches, and I have to take eye drops daily and pills to help with my headaches.
Was that surgery done through at the Veterans Administration Hospital?
It was done at the hospital here at Fort Hood. I don't know if that's a veterans hospital.
Okay, so you were active duty when that happened?
Yes, sir. I'm
Okay.
active duty.
Okay, you're still active duty now. Okay,
Yes,
so let's see if we can best answer that question for you, Destiny. Adam, take a swing.
Well, if Destiny, if you were out, it'd be a different story. But that is way out of my lane. You're suing the government at this point, which is not my lane. That is totally Jacqueline's.
Well, so here's my answer, and Greg, I'm going to be quite honest. I rely on Greg because of the degree of experience that I believe he possesses in processing these claims. But if I heard you correctly, you developed this disease while you were active duty and you are currently active duty, correct?
Yes, that was correct.
Okay.
She's not
So,
for talking to us, but yes, that's correct.
So it's compensable with the Veterans Administration as well as the migraines because you have what we call a residual medical condition as a result of the primary condition, even though it was brought on by the surgery. So anything that can be related or tied to that primary injury, any residual conditions, for example, the risk factors they give you when you have an operation, those are covered compensable injuries. However, you also potentially have a case for malpractice. You would need to consult with an attorney that does.
Yeah, because it happened to active duty. This is a Facta claim. This is the Federal Tort Claims Act.
Yeah.
This is not what this talk is about. So we're happy to have one of those talks, Destiny. We'd love to have you listen to one of those talks. But I have to tell you, as Adam said, when he said he's out of his lane, this is way out of the lane of 99% of accredited attorneys that represent disabilities, because this is not a disability claim for a veteran, which if you're injured in a VA, there's a separate process for that. This is in fact a Federal Tort Claims Act, what they call FTCA or Facta claim. And you need to get somebody who specializes in that. It was under the National Defense Authorization Act of 2019 that allowed Facta claims. And you need an expert in that. And there are very few experts in that are also accredited attorneys. That is a very specialized area of law.
So just to follow up on that, so to help Destiny with this question, can she contact you, Greg, and then you can talk privately with her? And can you give us your phone number again, since we're going into the section of contact information anyways?
Absolutely. We'll get that phone number out again. That's for this call-in show only. It is 888, toll-free, 888-671-6160. Now, as far as contacting us, this is certainly not something that we specialize in. There are attorneys that do specialize in it. I would strongly recommend you contact an attorney who specializes in Facta claims. Jay is more than happy to direct you. We're glad to scroll her email across there. You can send her an email and she'll be glad to direct you to the right folks. But that is definitely outside of the normal bounds for VA claims. Do you have another question, Joe?
No, I think this is we have quite a few questions today, and thank everyone for attending.
I want to end here, Joe, with asking Adam a question. Since we have a few more minutes here.
Go ahead.
Adam, what are the greatest fallacies you see about VA claims?
Man, you just had to sideswipe me with that one. Thanks.
Well, I did. I didn't prep Adam on any of this, so I did in fact throw you a nice curveball there. Let's see what you do with it, brother.
So a few of the biggest fallacies, we see this all the time in the forums. There's a lot of ideas that the VA is against me. They're waiting for us to die. The impression is out there, and we understand why. It's a complicated system, and anyone who tells you that they've got it down is a liar. Like I said, I've been doing this since 2013, and I'm still learning stuff every day. If I don't learn something, then I'm failing at my mission. They are working at improving. It's a slow improvement process. Nothing happens fast at the VA. Even little stuff. even local stuff, even just dealing with your regional office. That like I work with Portland regional office. We send an email to them to get an answer about something that popped up, and it might take a couple days for them to get back to us, and that's our direct contact that we have. It's not simple by any means, so it's slow, but they are working to make things better. We're groups like the association I'm with, otherwise, we're pushing to make things better. We're actually trying to do some stuff with community care in our area to improve it, because we see people falling off. We see doctors and stuff falling off out of that program because of pay issues. Yeah. So across the country, it's going to be groups like us that are going to be trying to make that difference. So you got to support us and help us out, and believe it when we say that. Yeah, we're working.
And we thank you for what you do. I really appreciate it. And at this time, we'd like to, before we close, Adam, if you can type on the chat area your contact information, and also say it, so when it goes to the podcast, other listeners can also hear it and take the information down. And I would like to ask the same thing from Greg and from Jack. You can type your information so our audience can have your contact info, and also when I do the closing, just say it so it gets recorded on the podcast and not just on the video.
Absolutely.
So
while he does that, I think I'll follow up on what he was saying with fallacies. I think probably the greatest fallacy that's out there is that because my friend got service connected to this, that I should be service connected for this. I think another one is because I have this medical condition, it is related to service. I'm sorry to say that there are many medical things that happen to us in life that just are not the result of the military or the result of serving in the military. Now, there are some things that veterans do need to know, though. For example, if you're in a car accident, and while in that car accident, you were active duty, like Destiny is. You got injured and you have a chronic condition now because of that. That is compensable. That any chronic condition is service connectable, even though you were off duty at the time, because you were serving the military. The military puts you at that base and under those circumstances.
Yep.
So that is compensable.
And I'm sure we have a lot of topics we're going to be talking about this session and the sections coming up. But for this session, we're running out of time. We're actually out of time. And I would like to thank everyone in the panel for your participation, your contribution. It's an awesome meeting you. And the audience, I'm sure that will and do benefit from all the content that you guys provide. And so at this time, I would like for, starting with ladies first, Jacqueline, if you can please give us how do people contact you, how do people get in touch with you, and also post that in the chat. But if you can tell us how to get in touch with you.
Okay, so my cell phone number for veterans, I have a dedicated cell phone for veterans, is area code 512-639-9904. I can also, veterans. I'm sorry?
This is for veterans.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also have a email address, the letter J, B as in boy, LOTT, at jblottlaw.com.
Thank you.
And if you lose my contact information, you can always call Greg.
Well, thank you so much. I just became her secretary and didn't know it.
Yeah, and you're free of charge.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, Jacqueline. And then also put that on the chat so we can.
It's not
record it?
letting me. It'll
Oh.
only let me chat with Greg.
Okay, well, go ahead and do that, and then Greg can send it to me.
Okay. Greg,
Yeah.
you want to put it in?
I've already done that.
All right.
Okay, thank you,
And then
dear.
Adam, your turn. How do people get in touch with you?
All right, so my work cell is 541-233-9212, or you can email me at adam.williams@co.crook.or.us. Gotta love government email.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so like I don't want to call that person. But if we're gonna get in touch with you, we'll just contact Greg.
There you go.
There you go.
Wow.
All right, cool.
We're all in a small community that is give or take 7% of the overall population.
So we all know each other.
and
So
we
Greg,
see-
your turn. Please, how do we get in touch with you?
Yeah, the easiest way to get a hold of me is G as in Greg, COLTON, at PIMLAR. That's PIMLAR.com. Or you can call 888-671-6160, and we'll be glad to take your call. Again, we are a wholesale legal services firm, so we work for accredited attorneys, but we're always happy to try and get people to the right folks, whether it's a VSO like Adam or an attorney like Jay Blott. We are here to give the best advice we can. We just don't give it directly to veterans.
Okay, and that's a good explanation there. Well, I want to thank you for attending the session, and this is our first of many that we are setting up. So looking forward to supporting Adam. Jacqueline, thank you very much for participating in the panel.
Thank you.
Greg, thank you for sharing all your wealth of information and resources. And we're very happy to continue doing this because this brings tons of benefits to our veteran community, military and veteran community. And thank you very much. And till next time.